Welcome to Web3 Watchdogs, the podcast that takes a deep dive into the world of Web3 security, compliance, and risk. Join Michael Pearl as he interviews executives from across the Web3 industry to uncover the challenges and opportunities of this rapidly evolving space. Web3 Watchdogs is sponsored by Cyvers, your one-stop shop for Web3 security and threat mitigation. Cyvers harnesses the power of AI to eliminate hacks, scams, fraud, and compliance challenges in real time, and even before they happen. For more information, visit cyvers.ai. That's CYVERS.ai.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Web3 Watchdogs, the podcast that focuses on everything security, fraud, compliance, risk, basically anything that has to do with safety and security in the Web3 space. And today we have a very interesting guest, Vugar Usi Zade. He is the COO of BitGat. I'm sure you've heard of BitGat, and we're going to dive in to talk about their practices in compliance, security, fraud prevention, and many, many more, because as the title implies, a COO is doing many, many things. So it's going to be fascinating. Vugar, hello. Thank you for joining.
Thanks for having me, and I love the energy and the sound of you already, like giving this temptation to see where are we going today with the conversation, and I'm very extremely happy to be here.
Thank you. So please tell us about yourself, about your background. How did you come to work at BitGat, and so on and so forth?
Oh my goodness, it is a very long journey and long story. I always say like people come to crypto to make money, but I was lucky one because I already made money. I sold my startup back in 2017, and I was very angry at my bank because they had to make me hire lawyers and bring a lot of papers to prove people the money in my bank account is actually my money. And every time I was doing some transaction was going through the same 7 rounds of hell, and at some point I was like, no, it shall change. And that's how I discovered myself the beautiful world of crypto and Bitcoin. Since then, I practically 90% debanked myself, put my money in crypto, and start building ventures, investing in companies. I became a GP at a venture fund, and this is how I've been introduced to many brilliant ventures, including BitGat. I worked for Bean Crypto and many other crypto ventures since, and I think that's how, or that's what reshaped my crypto journey as an entrepreneur and today as a CEO of BitGet. But prior to that, I come from Middle East, and I think I've been an exemplary child to my parents. I went to Harvard, I studied at Oxford, I worked for Sony, I served at Bain and Company as a consultant, and I've done almost like every bullet point things that one should do in your CV. Go to a good university, work at a Fortune 500 company. I've done all of this, but I'm very happy that I discovered the world of crypto to myself because this is where I feel truly happy and fulfilled as a professional, but also having this interesting life and travels and not being like for me like the in crypto no day is the same every day. You have new challenge, new opportunities. You work with actual money. You work with actual funds. And I give an example that at BitGet we have this the King's Cup, the trading challenge, and recently I've been doing a draw and choosing a one person randomly to give them a Ferrari, brand new Ferrari, and I don't have a Ferrari myself. And I was like, this is the true nature of crypto. Like you can make someone rich, you can make someone a millionaire overnight, someone gets a Ferrari, and all this excitement happens in an industry that is not like any other.
Yeah, it's funny how so many stories, and I speak to quite a few executives, so many stories of, people's background come from some sort of a painful experience, with a bank or other traditional financial institution. So really interesting that point. And then, people decide to build basically to go into the industry and start building and start, making others the bank, right?
Yeah, because I think it's about freedom, and like one of the key factors, like the motivations behind the entire idea of being crypto, BitGet for us, and even previously when I used to work for being crypto, these two companies like in crypto that I worked, firstly they were both were run by female CEOs, and that was my key motivation because I always look into the numbers and I'm economist by training. And when we look at a global picture, the most people, almost 70% of the world's population, don't have an access to the global banking system. It means these people are not able to participate in global financial system, and majority of these are women. Therefore, it's very important to give women and female audience, also of course the men, and access to the banking system. And when I say banking system, I don't necessarily mean to have an IBAN or bank account. Now I'm talking about like participating in global financial system. But unfortunately, traditional finance failed this big time. There are so many people across the world, especially in emerging markets, that simply can't have a bank account because either they don't have an address, or they don't have enough funds to travel to the city center, or they don't want to pay $25 a month to actually own a bank account. But what crypto companies like BitGet and many others do, that we solve that pain today. To either you go to BitGet wallet or BitGet exchange, with several clicks you can open yourself a wallet, accept a payment, and actually go do own your funds and do many other actions. And today we have BitGet Pay, that you can easily pay other people through that facility, or you can simply get a BitGet credit card and actually own a Visa or MasterCard that you can go and spend the money you own. And while all this happens, you don't even need to leave your home. All just you need is an internet and a device that can connect to internet. And beautiful part of this is that throughout all this time, you are the actual owner of your funds. You can withdraw them, you can deposit them, especially if you are using BitGet wallet. It is full custodian wallet. You have your own keys, and this is all your funds. While all this beauty of the financial tools are not available in a bank. Today, if something goes with the bank shuts down, no one can help you. Today, if bank thinks that you did something wrong, you can't get your funds out. And even I've been in Australia recently, they have this rule that every week or month you can only withdraw $200 in cash. And if you withdraw more, they charge you commission. Same in many countries, you actually pay commission to take your money out of the bank. And if it's a big sum, you have to actually go a building, like the facility of a bank, talk to a person and tell them why you need this much money. Imagine like you need $5,000 too big of a cash, and you have to go to the bank and explain why you need the money, which is actually your money. It's not like you're borrowing. It's not a
Yeah.
credit line. This is your money from your account. In order to take it out of a bank, you have to go explain bank why you need your money. For me, it's a nonsense, right? In crypto, it doesn't happen. In crypto, you can do whatever you want with money. And I think that should be like that. Banks shouldn't be keeping people a hostile. They should give back people the chance of the freedom. But while it is not happening, and while banks are going hand to hand with government and authorities, I think crypto is becoming this full idea of financial freedom, in my opinion.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. Having said that, with the great power comes great responsibility, right? At the end of the day, crypto companies amass, users' funds, and then you need to protect them. And that's basically what we're going to discuss right now, because it's not an easy task, right? But before that, I want to dive in a little bit to talk about BitGet. Can you give me kind of a brief overview? How many clients do you guys have? More or less where they are distributed geographically? What kind of activities do they do? Is it more buy and hold, or trading, or yield earning? Kind of an overview of
Definitely.
your community.
Definitely. Today, BitGet is the world's second largest crypto exchange by the user numbers. We serve 100 million clients globally, virtually more than 100 countries that our clients or users come from. We move $2 billion every day, and we are number one copy trading platform with 200,000 successful traders that publish their trades, more than 100 million successful trades that people actually copied and earn money, and we list more than 800 tokens. When it comes to our user base, we are very strong in Southeast Asia, also Eastern Europe, and our three growth markets is CIS, Latin America, and Middle East. In these three regions, we are very much focused on growing and establishing ourselves, and we've seen a huge growth in the last 2 years, thanks to both our expansion strategy, go-to-market strategies, but also thanks to the regional need. And I say always that the crypto adoption, not necessarily always come because people realize how great crypto or blockchain as a technology is, but most of the time it comes from the fact that people actually need our services. For example, my parents live in Turkey, and what happens there, because the Turkish lira and inflation rate in the country is 90%, people do prefer holding their assets in USDT, kind of a stable coins, and also in Bitcoin and Ethereum, because even though we consider crypto as a volatile asset compared to Turkish lira and how fast it just goes down, people prefer holding their assets in crypto. And there are a lot of exchange offices and OTC desks across the country where you can simply go bring your USDT, take the local money, and it is much profitable rather than holding your currencies in your funds in a local currency. Same applies to adoption in Argentina, Venezuela, and Latin America and many other countries, which is again forced by the need, and that is one of the reasons that we are very strong and we've been establishing ourselves very well in this market. But also, we've been seeing a growing attention in European markets and also different parts of the world, especially from the institutional point of view. Because until almost like last year and year and a half, we've been purely focusing on our retail customers and VIP customers when it comes to our like a general area of a business. But in last more than a year, we've been focusing to bring a better service to our institutional clients, whether it is algo traders, market makers, or the family offices. And we've seen a huge interest in that part to crypto. And when we talk about the institutions and family offices, I always thought that like, oh, these people have enough money to play with, therefore they don't mind, putting 5% or 6% into crypto just for that upside possibilities. But apparently I was wrong, because recently I've been talking to family offices and joining some conferences, and I realized that most of these people are smarter than I thought, and they actually use the crypto investment as a hedging fund towards the traditional markets, and they've been benefiting from the volatility of the market hugely, which is a very smart move in my opinion. And when it comes to trades, our bread and butter, I think the strong suit of BitGet is our futures market. In derivatives front, we are the world's second largest derivative platform in terms of our trading volume, whether it is futures or whether it's a margin trading. And we've been very strongly performing in also margin trading with up to 30 to 40x possibility to loan an asset. And I think that is what makes us strong. And we've been almost 40% growth we've seen in the spot market in last year, which bumps us to the third largest spot market provider in the world of exchanges, especially looking into the amount of the tokens we also present. We only have 7 or to 800 tokens listed at the time, which makes us one of the greatest, kind of a sweet spot between all our competitors like a Gate.io, MXC, and others who have thousands of tokens. And then there are also this a big player like a Kraken and Binance who has like a couple of hundred tokens. But I think as an BitGet, we provide enough kind of an exciting set of the tokens when it comes to investing and trading, but still a very healthy choice that users don't have to go to look through thousands of.
Vugar, this is super interesting what you just mentioned with respect to the institutionals. And yeah, I totally agree that some of them, or maybe even most of them right now, are allocating up to 5% of their portfolios to hedge against the market, especially with everything that's going on right now with the tariffs and everything. The question is, do they have their funds in a safe place, right? Because those are problems that we don't really see in the traditional finance world, where you have to worry about your funds being stolen due to a hack or some other cyber attack. And with that respect, I cannot help but thinking about the Bybit hack that the industry has just experienced, the $1.5 billion stolen. So I'd love to hear. I know you're not the chief information and security officer, and we don't have to go into the technical details about your security architecture and so on. But what I'm curious to hear is, what's the security environment and atmosphere within the company? What was the feeling after hearing the news? Did you guys change anything in terms of practices, in terms of your security architecture and so on?
It's a very beautiful question, and I think this question has like a technical side to it. Definitely, like the professional mind needs to kind of unlock and explain how we do things. But I can explain you how we do things from an operational point of view, and I am someone who works with a wider range of the teams across the company, and our logic all the time was that too much power in a single hand is a danger, whether the person kind of does something wrong or acts wrongfully. And we saw this happening in FTX case, and we all know that it is a very kind of a bad management. Therefore, first rule at BitGet is that no one has a single person has a complete control. All the big decisions that we make, whether it is a big transfer or whether it is a big decision related to anything in a company, several parties has to accept and approve the process through the multi-signature protocol. And when we talk about the multi-signature protocol, it means there will be several people, let's say 5 or 6 people, should approve the same transaction and some process for it to happen. It means at this point, if any security breach or hack happens, the hacking party should penetrate 5 or 6 devices, not just one device. But also, what we deploy as a technology is that we use cloud computers, and every time, every user has an option to choose from 5 to 6 virtual machines. It means at the moment of the decision making, I open my virtual machines and I choose randomly one of the 5 that I decide to do that operation, which that machine only turns on during that period. I do the operation, machine goes away. This way it becomes virtually unhackable because it is kind of a more physical options there. It is 5x5, 5 person choosing 5 random devices, and that device only operates during the time of that transaction and then shuts down, making it virtually impossible to hack or penetrate. This is from the end of the people who are not very tech savvy like me but needs to approve and make decision. This is our kind of a dummy proof mechanism to prevent any hacks. And this has been very successful so far. And BitGet is one, and I might say one and only company that since our founding, we never suffered any serious security breach or hack that could lead into losing the customer funds. Another important factor is that our funds are distributed in a different ways, and most of the funds we are actually storing in a cold storages in a safe boxes cut out of from the internet, unless like someone actually goes and breaks that machine physically or steal that machine physically. There's no way to hack it virtually. But definitely every day we do so many transactions and we move so much funds that we have to be very careful. And we work with all large industry providers to prevent any sort of the hack, whether it is kind of a such a huge and scaled hack like a Bybit suffered. But also we have to not forget that there are so many minor hacks and phishing attacks happen every day, whether people trying to send you fake DocuSign documents to open, some random links on Telegram, or even we saw a huge trend in the middle of the last year where people were using AI to trick and to bypass the KYC processes. I believe our colleagues from OKX suffered that. Luckily, we had a great partner who helped us to prevent this kind of hacks happening. Therefore, in my opinion, in daily operation, we see hundreds of the minor attacks that we are preventing from happening. And then, of course, there are these large ones that might happen that we are equipped to overcome, and I hope that such attacks never kind of bypasses our systems. And as you know that we partner closely with Bybit, and I think the Bybit hack, even it was the largest one, I want to give a shout out to Ben, my dear friend, the CEO of Bybit, and their entire team. First of all, they showed a great masterclass, the way they communicated it, that they understand what's happening and told their customers that was much bigger scale in terms of the communication, which helped people to stay and not to panic, and market didn't move much because previously such actions really had a tremendous effects in the users in the market. And secondly, I want to give a shout out and congratulate our entire business because we know even in the countries like US, when the Silicon Valley Bank went down or any other place that a bank suffers such a big crash or issue, what happens? Other bank either comes bank buys it or the government bails them out. But in our industry, we don't have a government to rely on, a central bank to print money or anything. Therefore, we have to help each other. And this is what happened. Like Binance went in with 40,000 Ethereum. BitGet, us, decided to lend them 40,000 Ethereum, and several other ventures did so until they could buy the Ethereum from the back to the market and refund to the customers. Therefore, even though the Bybit hack, Bybit suffered a lot, and it is almost their 1 year annual revenue kind of earnings equals 1 year their earnings. But still, with the help of the industry, they could make sure that this doesn't translate to the end user. And I think that is very important and key point, that even though hack happened, end user didn't suffer, because Bybit could have come and told that, oh, like, it's your money, it's gone now, what can I do? But they didn't do that. And I think it's a great example. And as a BitGet, we have a protection fund. It is the second largest in the industry after Binance. We have more than 6,500 Bitcoins in that fund. An entire fund is more than $500 million. Even it's, I think it's like around $600 million. It's a money, it's not a customer fund, it's a separate fund of the budget in 6 different wallets, always available for users to go and check that the money is there in case if something goes wrong. Because first, we understand that nothing should go wrong. There's a way that we can prevent things going wrong. We do all the measures in our power, but in case something goes wrong, we have enough money to actually restore the customers the stolen funds and use this money to make sure that our end user doesn't suffer. And as I mentioned, like, to recap the entire answer, I think, in my opinion, what makes a kind of a crypto an interesting place to be at is first the power and connection we have as an industry, and second, how mature we all became to make sure that even if something goes wrong, that risk is not reflected in the end user. Because if today your bank goes down, probably it will be directly reflected on you and your funds, while with the crypto we try these things not happening. And you mentioned like institutions, how institutions make sure that their funds are safe. I think most of the institutions out there, they need a powerful tools and technology that crypto can provide. For example, most of the algorithmic trading companies need a speed of 100 or 300 transactions per minute, which is special modern day technology that only exchanges can deploy. And most of the funds of the institutions are usually in a liquid form. I rarely see that institution, unless they are buying and holding like a Bitcoin in a long term. Most of the assets of the institutions are on the exchanges because they move it very fast and very quickly. They do a lot of trades. They use a lot of investment facilities through the exchanges that are not available in the kind of a cold storages. And I think as an institution, even though there's a risk, I think it's very easier for institutions to kind of put that risk on an exchange, because once you have your money on exchange, if something happens to that fund or money, you exchange the responsibility, right? Exchange has a responsibility. But I always say that cold wallets and cold storages, yes, it's your keys, it's your money, but also it comes with a responsibility, because now you need to make your keys are safe. Now you need to make sure that that device is physically safe, it is stored in a right way. Otherwise, there's a very high chance of losing funds. And I always remember this very famous case of the years back when the guy's girlfriend, I think, threw away a hard disk with the Bitcoin keys, and he was even trying to sue the British government to get a chance to clean up the entire landfill that they was from the trash in order to find that asset. Therefore, in my
Yeah.
opinion, which one is riskier, right? Your, I don't know, your girlfriend throwing something, your kid, I don't know, playing with the USB card and like unlocking the password of your ledger, or physically, it having a damage and getting erosion. There's so many things out there. Or I have seen a lot of people who wrote their pass keys something on a paper, and they either the paper got burned or it got wet, and so many things happened to it. Therefore, in my opinion, it's always a challenge that what is the best way to store crypto assets. Like, do you want to put all your responsibility on yourself, or it is better to have an exchange that have more assets to restore?
Yeah, on that point, I remember that how after FTX, there was this rush towards self custody, and it was a very kind of dark moment for the exchanges, right? And then the funds have rebounded and got back to the exchanges, also with somewhat of a decline of DeFi, right? I mean, right now, DeFi is still there, but the exchanges and the centralized entities are still very, very strong and growing. So I totally get your point. Having said that, again, it puts much more responsibility on the exchanges to, first of all, be safe and secure, but also, as you've mentioned, to have proper crisis management mechanisms and even allocate funds for that, as you mentioned, with the fund with respect to what happens if something does go wrong. But I wanted to ask you, so we covered, the issue of your funds and the funds that you're holding for your clients being stolen, let's say in a hack. But let's talk about your clients and especially the retail clients. So you briefly mentioned the different scams and even the use of AI that is kicking in right now to facilitate them. One of the biggest problems that we see is pig butchery. Pig butchering is a huge problem, and it especially affects exchanges because at the end of the way, this is the gateway for non-crypto savvy traders and clients into transferring the funds to the scam, right? So usually that's the weak link. Let's put it this way. How much of fraudulent activity and especially pig butchering oriented one you see at BitGat? Because I know that all exchanges see it. I'm not going to believe an exchange that says that they don't have it. The question is to what extent and how are you mitigating this? How are you dealing with this? Are you successful at identifying it and blocking it?
I think different variations of these romance scams, I don't know, job or scams, all this they operate
Investment
in,
scams as well.
yeah, like they've been around for years and years and years. I don't know, Nigerian prince and many others that been around so long, even before crypto. Therefore, I don't think that they're an exclusive scams to crypto, but they're wide range. What we do, we have several ways of preventing it, and then also there's several ways to help the end user. First and foremost, we always try to build a technology that can understand this kind of an attempt and guide our users. I'll give you one example. For example, today, if you open an account on BitGet, you follow your KYC and all the processes, you can definitely start buying and investing funds, but you will not be allowed to take your funds out within a certain time of the period. Usually it's 24 or 48 hours. Because usually what scammers try to do, they try actually to bring you to their platform, quickly insert the funds or make you buy funds and then withdraw that money. Second important aspect, what we do, we allow the users to put a delayed timing for their transactions, and I recommend doing it everyone. I usually put, because a crypto transaction happen instantaneously, and even if you are under the pressure, someone is physically next to you and pressuring you to do that transaction, you can do the transaction. But if your default is about 30 minutes delay or 1 hour delay, it means transaction only will happen after 30 minutes and you will have enough time to cancel that transaction, which is another great aspect. Third, if we see that any wallet or transaction you are doing that previously been reported as a scam or flagged out, you will see a notice in your wallet address telling that, are you sure to do this transaction because this wallet was involved in fraudulent activities and previously flagged, whether it is within our ecosystem or whether it was a part of the exit previously. This gives our users another chance to think what they are doing and if they are sure they want to do this action, because once you do the transaction, it's very hard to retract, unfortunately. But all you can do is to educate users how to kind of understand the fraudulent activity and to prevent it. And lastly, we've been working with both local authorities and also our customer case is very much successful in terms of understanding the fraud cases, flagging them out, especially if they're still within our ecosystem or within the ecosystem of the centralized exchanges. We can always notice each and other and tell that, for example, if someone took your funds, you got scammed, but they pulled it to another centralized exchange wallet, and we can still block that fund in there and help you to, through the help of authorities, to actually reclaim that fund. And we've been very successful in doing so. And a great example to this is also the Bybit bounty program. And I think what Bybit did, they also announced a website where users can log in and tell them where the funds stolen ended up in order to try to prevent and block. And actually, I think centralized exchanges is the only places you can actually block the funds and help the people who got scammed, because any ways, other ways not possible if you are in a decentralized wallet or self-custody wallet or decentralized exchange, because there's no customer service and there's no way to connect with anyone. It is impossible to actually retract your funds. And another important point, we've been investing a lot is anti-scam month. Almost every year, twice, we do in months of education, and we produce a lot of content from the video to social media to educate people in the forms of the frauds that is happening out there. And recently we come across another crazy mechanism of the scam is when the scammers build the platforms that look alike with the different URLs, and that exactly looks like a platform, and scam people to come deposit there. And for a long time, people have this illusion that they're trading and they're doing positive trades, and they've been forced to put more money and more money. And actually, it is all the UI. There is no wallet addresses, and all the money that they allegedly invested is actually being stolen by the scammers. To prevent that, what we introduced is a URL checker on BitGat, which has all sorts of information. Whether if it's someone claims they're from BitGat, you can insert their mobile numbers and check if it's their number, their LinkedIn addresses to check if it's their LinkedIn, and all the other aspects you can go and check on that particular portal, which gives our users the chance to double check and double click on the things. And I want to use your platform just to give a shout out to everyone listening to us. We've been also seeing recently a lot of hiring scams using the crypto exchange's name, telling people that, oh, you've been hired for XYZ position. Now, because you never worked in crypto, usually the people who never worked in crypto fall into this. You have to do onboarding training, you have to put some money and start trading, and so on and so on and so on, and making people to put money. And I want to again remind everyone, no one working at a crypto exchange will ever ask you to invest or put money into any account, and no crypto exchange or job provider should tell you to go and trade your money, because trading is a specific job. And I always say almost 90% of BitGet employees, they don't trade because they're HRs, accountants, marketing specialists, and many other people that understand their risk. They might be buying and holding Bitcoin or Ethereum, or buying and holding in spot a lot of tokens, but very rarely you see someone needing a trading as a skill unless you are a professional trader. Therefore, if you are looking for a job in a crypto market, please be careful and never fall into that trap of the scam that you have to learn trading and you have to put some money into any platform. I think this is not the way it should be done. And unfortunately, most of the time, people come and report the scams when it is too late, because in the beginning they're very excited for all these returns, whether they are allegedly in love or whether they're helping someone's dying child. And
Yeah, sometimes even if you tell it to them, even if you notify them that they've been scammed, they will not believe you.
Yeah, that is the biggest problem, that a person who is being scammed, sometimes no matter how much you notify them and tell them what's happening, they try not to believe in it because of the all the mental state they are, and that is making it hard to prevent. But also, as I mentioned, we are trying to build a technology that can alert people before the transaction, not after the transaction.
Yeah, that's a fair point. So definitely education is super important, and I think that the things that you've mentioned with respect to the onboarding of the clients and also the URL checker, it's super important. Just to add to that, there are also tools that can help you to identify the destination wallet, and also to create a linkage between the fake website or the platform, the social platform that you were contacted on, and between the destination wallet, and to flag the wallet as a wallet that is affiliated with a fraudulent network, and then by the way, connected with that mechanism of suspension of the transaction that you've mentioned, that you have a delay in the transaction. That could be an amazing solution that could basically prevent most of the fraudulent activity from happening. So yeah, definitely the tools are out there, the education is needed, and exchanges need to be very serious about it to protect their users, and so should the users be, right? The users should be aware of the dangers that are out there.
Yeah, users should be aware. And also, most of the time, for example, when you guide the user and you tell them that, yes, we did freeze this account, but you have certain amount of the time, because we can't keep it indefinite unless you go and bring the papers from the local authorities that they demand this investigation, and we can block that account further and we can try to retrieve the amount. Most of the time, we can't disclose the KYC user information unless there's the authorities involved. And we see that also users are reluctant, or they want the issue to resolve faster. I understand the frustration, but most of the time you need also the understanding and cooperation from the user. And which is, in my opinion, also key.
Yeah, we see that with our clients all the time that, when we prove to the exchange that, this specific wallet is a fraudulent wallet, and then they go and they verify with their client, it takes some time, but eventually they get to the answer that, yes, it is a fraudulent wallet. But at first, some of them don't believe it. Some of them don't want to believe it, right? Because as you said, they're in love, they're helping someone. And yeah, this should be a cooperation between, the technology, the solutions that help you flag the wallets and figure out who's the fraudster and who's not, and obviously your customer support and account management to have this discussion with the users. Vugar, unfortunately, that's all the time we have. It was really fascinating to dive into the practices of BitGat and to understand a little bit how you're doing things, seeing how you're handling this huge responsibility that we have just discussed. Where can we find you? Are you active on social media?
Across
Linked.
all the social media, you can definitely find BitGet and find me through, or you can just use Usi Zade Talk on all the social media. Find me everywhere. And thanks for having me, and for the people listening and watching to us. Please stay safe. Please double check. Please be very careful with your money and stay alert and keep us alert and rely on the centralized exchanges and our customer care service, because we are the only entities within the crypto ecosystem that actually has a customer care. There's a human you can reach out, and I think it's very important aspect to report a scam or to kind of a flag the transaction that we can help you back. But first and foremost, you try to make your own smart decisions and make sure that you always know who you are sending funds to, and use all these aspects of delay mechanisms, anti-phishing codes, and two-factor authentication on the exchanges, or saving the wallet address for the future use to make sure that you don't do any mistake by copying and pasting. And there are so many other issues that are scam related, also non-scam related, that can happen, that can lead you to losing your funds. Stay safe.
Well said. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Web3 Watchdogs is sponsored by Cyvers, your one-stop shop for Web3 security and threat mitigation. Cyvers harnesses the power of AI to eliminate hacks, scams, fraud, and compliance challenges in real time, and even before they happen. For more information, visit cyvers.ai. That's CYVERS.ai.